Simonette was once seen as someone living an ideal life with a stable teaching career, regular charitable involvement at her church, and a family that appeared happy alongside a husband who consistently showed care and attention. Behind that flawless image, however sensitive relationships, financial troubles, and a series of untruthful statements quietly caused everything to collapse. So what truly happened behind the closed doors of a marriage that seemed so complete? On September 25, 1982, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the Mapes family welcomed their first child, a daughter named Simonette Mapes-Crupi, a baby remembered by those around her for a smile that seemed ever present from her earliest years. Due to her father's career in the United States Air Force, Simonette's childhood was shaped by frequent relocations, moving from one city to another across the country until the family eventually settled in New York after spending a period living in Florida. Despite growing up amid constant changes in her living environment, Simonette experienced a relatively stable childhood, remained focused on her education, and early on demonstrated strong academic abilities. After graduating from Fort Hamilton High School, she enrolled at the College of Staten Island, majoring in education, completed her bachelor's degree, and officially entered the public education system in 2006 as a social studies teacher. During her years teaching at several schools in the Brooklyn area, Simonette did not shy away from challenging academic environments. Instead, she chose to engage more deeply with her students by offering support guidance and consistent mentorship. She served as the advisor for a girls' leadership club focused on self-protection skills and positive future-oriented awareness, and she also founded the organization Fairy to support students from disadvantaged backgrounds, laying the foundation for her image as a dedicated educator with a strong sense of social responsibility. As she continued to build her teaching career, Simonette also entered another pivotal chapter of her life when she met Jonathan Crupi, an English teacher working at the same school where she taught, and their relationship quickly developed into a deeply committed bond. By 2007, the two were officially married and began their life together in an apartment on Forest Avenue in the New Springfield area of Staten Island, a place they viewed as their long-term home. After settling in, Simonette accepted a middle school teaching position at the Classical School, an academy focused on critical thinking, creative work, and the performing arts, beginning her new role in 2009, while Jonathan also taught at the same institution. The early years of their marriage were relatively calm, marked by stable routines and shared activities, including annual vacations to Walt Disney World. Alongside her teaching responsibilities, Simonette remained actively involved in the community, volunteering with the ASPC and participating in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, while she and her husband adopted 2 dogs and maintained a steady daily life within their neighborhood. From the outside, their life appeared stable and largely uneventful, until the summer of 2012, when signs of strain began to surface within the marriage. As she entered graduate school, signs of irregularity within the marriage began to surface when Jonathan Crupi maintained a private lifestyle that differed from what he presented to his wife, even as both of them were preparing to complete their master's programs. When the school released the list of students eligible to receive their degrees, Simonette noticed that her husband's name was missing, immediately sensing that something was not right and confronting him directly about it. In response, Jonathan claimed that the school had made an administrative error and failed to include his name on the list, an explanation that was difficult to verify, but one Simonette temporarily accepted in the absence of concrete evidence. However, her doubts did not end there, and during a review of her husband's phone call history, she discovered a number that appeared with unusual frequency. When she called the number herself, Simonette spoke briefly with a woman who identified herself as Pumpkin, though the conversation yielded no clear information, and instead reinforced the uneasy feeling that Jonathan was concealing an inappropriate and unclear relationship. Even without definitive proof, these fragmented details gradually led Simonette to believe that her husband was no longer being truthful within their marriage. Following the initial suspicions, Simonette went on to discover that Jonathan had unilaterally used money from their joint account and transferred funds to sensitive services, even though that money had been intended to cover the completion of his master's program. This discovery quickly led to a tense confrontation and pushed the marriage into a visibly unstable state. On July 5, 2012, the situation took a tragic turn when Simonette was found unresponsive, lying face down on the floor of their apartment, with multiple serious injuries concentrated on her back and neck, indicating that she had endured a series of violent incidents within a confined space. According to early reports from authorities, her passing did not occur immediately, but resulted from physical exhaustion caused by prolonged injuries. Investigators also noted a wound on the finger where she wore her wedding ring, consistent with defensive behavior, along with numerous abrasions and bruises on her arms, legs, and feet, aligning with a scenario involving forceful impacts or a fall in the stairwell area. This tragedy unfolded just 2 days before what would have been the couple's 5th wedding anniversary, and Jonathan was reported to be visibly distraught when the incident came to light. According to Jonathan Crupi's statement to authorities, he woke up that morning at approximately 6:45 a.m. and said he allowed Simonette to continue resting before gently waking her around 7:30 a.m., at which point he told her he needed to go out to take care of some personal matters and have the car checked. Jonathan stated that Simonette asked him to stop by the school to pick up some teaching materials and activity plans she would need for an upcoming class, after which she returned to rest. In his subsequent account, Jonathan claimed that he spent most of the day traveling around the Brooklyn area, where he went to a discount movie theater with the intention of watching a performance, specifically the musical Wicked, being shown at a theater on Atlantic Avenue, before continuing with other activities throughout the day, as he described. In his continued statement, Jonathan Crupi told investigators that after the performance ended, he drove directly to the school and said he entered the building, went straight to Simonette's office to collect the materials she had requested, and then left the school at approximately 10:06 a.m. He stated that he then sent Simonette a text message informing her that he had picked up the books and lesson plans and was on his way to have the car checked, but claimed he did not receive any response from her. According to Crupi, after completing the vehicle inspection, he went on to take care of several other personal errands, including stopping at 5 different shoe stores, because he needed a new pair of shoes, though he said he did not find anything suitable and made no purchase. At around 11:50 a.m., having still received no reply, he sent another text message to Simonette, saying that he was going to stop by Home Depot to buy paint. But again, according to his account, she did not respond. At approximately 12:15 p.m., Crupi said he called his wife believing that the ringing phone might wake her, but the call went unanswered. He claimed that he did not actually go inside Home Depot, instead pulling into the parking lot before changing his mind and driving back home, and stated that upon entering the apartment, he immediately called 911 after discovering Simonette unresponsive, initially describing the scene as resembling the aftermath of an unsuccessful break-in. When law enforcement arrived at the scene following the emergency call, Jonathan Crupi suggested that the incident might be connected to individuals from outside the household. However, investigators found no evidence indicating that Simonette, a teacher widely regarded as gentle and dedicated, had any involvement in violent conflicts beyond her personal life. During conversations with police, Crupi referenced an incident that had occurred several weeks earlier when the couple had inadvertently witnessed a dangerous situation involving groups of teenagers, after which Simonette had posted a message on social media expressing the view that children and adolescents on Staten Island should not imitate the extreme behavior of certain groups in Brooklyn, without understanding the serious consequences such a path could lead to. In the early stages of the investigation, the possibility of a retaliatory act linked to group-related activity was considered, but no concrete elements were found to support this theory. Meanwhile, the tragedy that befell Simonette inflicted profound emotional harm on her family, particularly her parents, Teresa Mapes and John Mapes, who were left in deep grief over a loss that could not be replaced.
I wanted you to know how much I love you, and that I never stopped thinking of the day that you were born. It was so beautiful, and I was so happy. The day you were 3 years old, and you were so sick, we were afraid we were going to lose you. The first day of school, and how you cried to come home. The day you graduated high school with honors and on the dean's list. And of course, that's my Simonette. The day you turned sweet 16. So beautiful. The day you came home and told me, Mom, I got a tattoo, please don't be mad. The day you came home and told me, I'm running away, and we had to chase you all the way to Queens. The day you came home and told me, Mom, I'm going to college to become a teacher. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to teach these kids how to be better people. The day you came home and told me, I got my bachelor's, Mom. The day you came home and told me, Mom, I got a job with the New York City Department of Ed. The day you came home and told me, Mom, I got my master's, and I got it with honors. Well, that's the party we never got to have. Well, the day you told me when Dad was laying in bed, they thought that he had lung cancer. And you told me, Mom, don't worry, I will never leave you. And you're gonna come live with me, Mom. Never got to see that day. Thank God in a way, because Dad's still here, but you're not. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. It's a pain I have to live with. But this video is for you, Simonette. I love you so much.
In the days that followed, Simonette's family received attention and support from the media in an effort to draw public awareness to the case. And her father appeared before the press to urgently call on authorities to bring clarity to what had happened, emphasizing that the person responsible for this tragedy could still be at large and pose a potential danger to others. Speaking through a choked voice, he stated that the family would not abandon the search for the truth and would pursue justice for their daughter to the very end, until the individual responsible was forced to face the appropriate legal consequences. After that appeal, several heavy days passed, and Simonette's funeral was held, marking the beginning of a period of profound mourning for her family and all those who knew her. On July 10, 2012, Simonette was laid to rest in Willowbrook during a solemn service attended by approximately 200 family members, friends, and people whose lives she had touched, many of whom affectionately referred to her by the nickname Sissy. Those in attendance came from a wide range of backgrounds, including family friends, fellow educators, teenagers who had once been her students, as well as a group of motorcycle riders and uniformed police officers, all gathering to honor the memory of Simonette Mapes-Crupi. The funeral mass was held when she was just 29 years old at Our Lady of Mercy Church, a place where she had spent considerable time participating in community activities, and the atmosphere throughout the service was marked by quiet grief and reflection. Among those present, Jonathan Crupi's behavior drew particular attention, as he appeared visibly shaken trembling and breaking down in tears, clutching a rosary and placing 2 roses on the casket before the service concluded. Over time, however, these displays began to be questioned when Simonette's family recalled that he had previously urged them to move on from the tragedy and continue with their lives, a remark that gradually cast doubt on his sincerity. Not long after the burial, Jonathan was seen in the company of another woman who bore a physical resemblance to Simonette, while also cutting off contact with her family, including restricting her mother. Teresa Mapes from accessing her daughter's personal belongings, even as the family continued to believe that authorities would eventually uncover the full truth behind what had happened. Investigators quickly identified inconsistencies in Jonathan Crupi's statements and concluded that the account he provided did not align with the evidence collected, leading them to determine that the incident had occurred within a time window ranging from approximately 2 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., far earlier than the 2:20 p.m. emergency call he placed. Analysis of the scene indicated that the interior of the apartment had been deliberately rearranged to resemble the aftermath of a failed break-in, while Crupi's movements throughout the day were believed to have been intended to construct a superficial alibi. In addition, he was unable to produce any physical evidence, including tickets or confirmation from the theater, to support his claim that he had attended the performance as stated. And from that point forward, the picture of what truly happened began to emerge in a direction entirely different from his original narrative. The investigation ultimately revealed that during the afternoon hours that day, Jonathan Crupi did not carry out the activities he had described, but instead spent time meeting with a woman who provided sensitive services known by the alias Miss Pumpkin, the same individual Simonette had previously contacted after noticing the number repeatedly appearing on her husband's phone. Jonathan's claim that he had been asked to go to the school to retrieve teaching materials was also determined to be untrue, as school staff confirmed that Simonette had already taken all necessary materials home earlier and had not required any assistance. These details indicated that his departure from the apartment that day was largely intended to extend his absence and create a window for other activities against the backdrop of a marriage already under prolonged strain, rooted in a pattern of non-transparent behavior and repeated falsehoods that Jonathan had continued to construct. Jonathan's repeated efforts to conceal his academic status and his dishonesty regarding financial matters had a severe impact on Simonette, particularly after she discovered that he had spent a large sum of money, estimated at more than $50,000, on sensitive services while also failing to complete his master's program, as he had claimed. These revelations pushed Simonette into a state of emotional crisis, making her acutely aware that the foundation of her marriage was on the brink of collapse as the tension between the two escalated beyond control. During this period, Simonette repeatedly raised the possibility of ending the marriage and had even come close to seeking legal counsel to prepare for a separation. Subsequent investigative findings also revealed that prior to the tragedy, Jonathan had used his personal computer to search for information related to managing the scene where the incident occurred, and methods for removing biological traces using common household cleaning agents. And this search history ultimately became one of the key factors that led authorities to focus more closely on his role in the full sequence of events. In November 2012, after authorities had gathered sufficient data and supporting evidence, Jonathan Crupi was arrested for investigative purposes and faced charges related to an especially serious offense, along with a violation involving prohibited dangerous items. The arrest led Simonette's family to believe that the investigation had finally focused on the core of what had happened. Even though throughout the process, Crupi continued to insist that he was not involved and denied any responsibility, repeatedly clinging to the narrative of a failed intrusion that he had presented from the very beginning. The trial took place in the summer of 2015, And although prosecutors lacked direct physical evidence or eyewitness testimony, they constructed their case around a relatively cohesive body of circumstantial evidence, centering on the defendant's internet search history, indications of deliberate concealment, and the flow of money spent on sensitive services and related content over an extended period of time. During the trial, Miss Pumpkin was called as a witness and testified that she had met Jonathan beginning in 2009, stating that he initially contacted her using a different name, Mike, after finding her information on an adult-oriented platform. According to her testimony following their first phone call, the two met in person and continued to see each other on a recurring basis for several years, typically every 6 to 8 weeks at various lodging locations that Jonathan arranged himself and deliberately changed from one meeting to the next. During cross-examination at trial, defense attorneys continued questioning Miss Pumpkin about whether Simonette had ever called her, which the woman denied, stating that she often received calls from angry wives after they discovered her phone number in their husbands' phones, but insisting that she had never received a call from Simonette. However, subsequent investigative findings indicated that this denial did not align with earlier events and raised suspicions that Miss Pumpkin may have been influenced to provide testimony favorable to Jonathan. According to her testimony on the day the tragedy occurred, she received a call from Jonathan at approximately 11 a.m., and the two met at the Comfort Inn at 12:40 p.m. for a brief encounter during which she claimed she did not observe any obvious injuries on Jonathan's body, nor any signs suggesting that he had recently been involved in a physical struggle or serious altercation. She further testified that Jonathan resumed contacting her roughly 1 month after Simonette's passing, and the two began meeting more frequently, at times maintaining a weekly schedule, with each meeting lasting about 90 minutes, taking place at Jonathan's parents' home without their knowledge. During one of these meetings, Jonathan mentioned information about a case involving a teacher in Brooklyn, and when Miss Pumpkin acknowledged that she had heard about it, he admitted that the teacher was his wife, displaying a strong emotional reaction when speaking about Simonette. The entire trial process lasted approximately 5 weeks, and on July 20th, 2015, the jury reached the conclusion that Jonathan Crupi bore criminal responsibility for the serious incident involving his wife, based on the body of circumstantial evidence presented in court. After entering deliberations, the jury took only about 2 hours to deliver its final verdict, bringing the adversarial phase of the case to a close and moving the matter forward to the sentencing stage in accordance with the law.
Get to see him here.
Guilty. A long time. Took a long time, but we finally got it. We knew after 3 days, maybe before, but the first 3 days it was a shock to us. But after that we knew. Just didn't understand why he made his family go through this, made everybody go through this. But he's a demon. He's a psychopath. You know, our lives are still gonna be messed up. Always, it's a new normal. Something that we never forget. You know, we think about this all day, every day. We don't cry all day, but we cry every day. You know what I mean? So we're sad because, you know, this was one of our, he was like a son to us. He really was. It's something we never, ever seen or would even expect. And this psychopath did this. It's unconscionable. Just don't understand, but we're very, very happy. Very, very happy. Thank God for that jury. Thank you, Jesus.
This has been long awaited. 3 years, and he got what he deserved. I just hope the sentencing matches. Thank you. And my baby can rest in peace. Amen. Amen. Oh, yeah.
According to assessments by the family and the prosecution, the motive behind the tragedy was believed to stem from Simonette directly confronting her husband about his sensitive relationships outside the marriage, as well as his use of shared family funds for non-transparent purposes, causing the conflict between them to escalate severely. When the court imposed a sentence of 25 years in prison, Jonathan Crupi appeared visibly stunned by the decision, suggesting that he had not anticipated the legal consequences of the case. In his statement addressed to the victim's family during the proceedings, Jonathan offered a vague apology without acknowledging a specific cause or accepting concrete responsibility, and immediately afterward continued to assert that he had not committed the act, maintaining his claim of innocence despite the verdict that had been formally delivered. In 2019, Jonathan Crupi's legal team filed an appeal arguing that the warrant authorizing the search of his personal electronic devices was procedurally invalid. However, the request was denied, and the appeal did not alter the original conviction, meaning that the earliest possible date for consideration of his release remained set for 2037. After a brief period of adjustment to life in custody, Jonathan began participating in a connection service designed for incarcerated individuals, where he posted content seeking a new relationship and expressed a desire to escape prolonged loneliness. In his description, he stated that he did not place importance on physical appearance, background, or personal beliefs, but was instead looking for someone open-minded, intelligent, and capable of providing emotional compatibility. Throughout this promotional content, Jonathan continued to repeat his stance that he was not responsible for the tragedy that occurred, portraying himself as someone suffering the consequences of a serious incident he maintained he had no involvement in. After discovering the promotional content Jonathan Crupi had posted from within the correctional facility, administrators at Clinton Correctional Facility received a complaint from Teresa Mapes, who personally reached out to express her outrage over allowing an incarcerated individual to use such a platform to connect with others, something she viewed as deeply disrespectful to her family and to those who had supported Simonette. During her conversation with prison staff, Teresa demanded that the content be removed and warned that Jonathan was a dangerous individual with psychological instability, emphasizing that these behaviors had not emerged only after his incarceration. When asked to elaborate, she recalled an incident that occurred while Simonette was still alive involving Jonathan, repeatedly engaging in behavior that caused serious harm to the family's pets, despite Simonette being solely responsible for their care, a detail that reinforced her belief that troubling warning signs had existed long before the tragedy. Jonathan remains incarcerated under the court's ruling, while in remembrance of her only daughter, Teresa Mapes, created a Facebook memorial group titled R.I.P. Simonette Mapes, where she regularly shares memories, photographs, and messages to preserve Simonette's legacy and express the profound emptiness that has defined her life since her daughter's absence. The case came to a close with a sentence handed down to the person held responsible, but the consequences it left behind for Simonette's family and those who loved her are beyond repair, while also standing as a stark lesson about the danger of prolonged deception, non-transparent relationships, and the cost of ignoring warning signs within a marriage. This story reveals how silent fractures can exist beneath the surface of what appears to be a stable life, and how justice only has a chance to prevail when the truth is finally brought into the light. Thank you for following today's story. If you have any thoughts or emotions about this case, please leave a comment to remember the victim and share the video so the story can reach a wider audience. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like to continue accompanying us in future episodes of True Crime Documentary. Goodbye, and see you again in the stories to come.